Today we're using the original herb for flavoring a mead, and that's Meadowsweet.
Yeah, we're making a fairly simple mead, okay? So this is kind of a beginner mead, but it's also going to be a very flavorful mead. It's a metheglin because it's using herbs, and there's going to be some other ingredients added too. But let me tell you a little bit about Meadowsweet. It's kind of cool stuff. So, the parts of the meadowsweet plant that grow above ground are used to make medicine. Meadowsweet is used for colds, bronchitis, upset stomach, heartburn, peptic ulcer disease, and joint disorders, including gout. It is also used to increase urine output and kill germs in the urine of people with bladder infections. Wow, so amazing, right? It's just incredibly powerful. Now, how much of that carries over into a mead, I can't really say. I'm sure some does. It can't kill everything, but your results may vary. So let's see here. And then here's the history of it. This is even cooler. It has a long and distinguished history of medicinal use, which we said already, and is mentioned in some of the most famous literary works of the Middle Ages. Meadowsweet was one of the 3 sacred herbs of the Celtic Druids and was historically used to flavor mead, hence the name meadwort. So this is like the OG of mead ingredients. Yeah, I just came up with that one. Sorry. It didn't really work so well. So what we want to do, though, is we're going to get our fermenter going. Now, I'm using the Little Big Mouth Bubbler because it's a 1.4 gallon. I can end up with a gallon after racking and things like that. You can use a bag if you want to hold this stuff. I'm not, and there's a good reason. I like it to circulate in the brew, and we're just going to use a bag when we actually do the racking later on. So there's still really not a lot of mess.
But before we get too far into the process, there's something that's missing, and that's the water we're going to be adding soon. So let me go get that.
All right, to make this mead, what you're going to need is Meadowsweet. We're using 3/4 of an ounce or 21 grams. We're also going to be using Red Star Premier Blanc yeast. That's a 12% alcohol tolerance. So I'm planning everything according to that. We're also adding some dry orange zest. Now that's my own making. If you can buy dried orange peel, that works. If you have to use fresh, be very careful. I've heard of some people having issues with mold and things like that. Probably best to bake it in your oven for a little while and dry it out and use it dry. We've had great success with dry. I've never really used fresh so much. We have a couple times. Didn't really seem to do as much. The dry seems to take the flavors a lot better. I'm also using a cup of black tea. This happens to be decaf English breakfast tea because I can't do caffeine anymore. And there's really not a lot of point in putting caffeine into a alcoholic beverage to me. So, but anyway, the reason for the black tea is that is our tannin, okay? It's going to add that mouthfeel and things like that. It's not really the kind of thing that you want to substitute for a green tea or an herbal tea or anything of the sort. You want to use a black tea for this. This has been steeped for about 8 minutes or so. It's still warm, but not hot anymore. We're also going to be using Sweet Squeeze Orange Blossom Honey today. And the reason I'm using this is because I wanted that orange floral thing to add in because this supposedly tastes like almonds. Now, I probably should have made some tea or something beforehand to really test this out. We just got the package in and I wanted to try it. Somebody suggested that we use Meadowsweet. So, I thought, you know what? We probably should because it's like the OG for mead. So anyway, I know I'm going to say that joke 5 times. I'm sorry. It's not going to get any better. From the smell, I just get like grassy whatever.
Now I get a grassy plus. I get some floral notes from it that Brian seems to be missing. I think he's just getting stuck on the aroma of alfalfa or something you might feed a rabbit because he did make jokes about that.
Anyway, supposedly when steeped, it has an almond essence flavor. So I thought almond and orange together actually probably work really nicely with the honey. This could be really, really cool. So that's where we went with the flavors for that. So let me get my scale going here, and I'm just tearing it out. So I'm going to add the honey first. This will be 2.5 pounds of this honey. Okay, so there's our 2.5 pounds of honey, which means I don't need the scale anymore. So I'll apologize. Now you have to look at my face, not the top of the fermenter. And next I'm going to add in the tea. Hopefully not spill it all over the place. See, that's what's nice about these fermenters. They're huge, but don't smack your stuff off of it. And I'm also going to start adding in the herbs because why not? Just like that, unceremoniously. And then the orange zest. How much of this? About a tablespoon, I would say. Maybe a little bit less than a tablespoon. I can go a little bit more. And this is literally just orange zest that I dried in our dehydrator. Really simple stuff. And then I'm going to start adding water. Now, in the past, when we make brews, we usually use a 1 gallon container. This is 1.4 gallons, but I want to end up with about a gallon. So what I'm doing this time is 2.5 pounds of honey and 1 full gallon of water. So it's actually going to be like 1.4 gallons, 1.3 gallons in this container. But when we rack it down the road, it should come out to a 1 gallon for our nice narrow neck 1 gallon fermenters, right? So I'm going to pour in some water now, not all of it.
Now this is warm water because I knew we wanted to loosen up that honey to make it easier to stir.
Now when we say warm, we mean like 100 to 110 degrees. You don't want it to go over, say, 120 because you start killing the yeast at that point. Now there's no yeast in here yet, but when we do pitch the yeast, you want to make sure that it's not over that temperature. Now we mix. It's a little more difficult to mix because I'm not picking up the fermenter and shaking the crap out of it. But there is still, you know, a lot of oxygenation that has to happen. You hear how I'm sloshing it around, right? You want that. You can use a drill with the aerator thing on it and all that. It's totally fine if you want to do that. I don't know. I keep things simple. This works for me. I do want to stir this up quite a bit, so it'll probably take a good 5 minutes of stirring. And I'm literally stirring one way, getting a good whirlpool going, and then I break it up, and that adds the oxygen. See that foam forming in there? You want that. In the beginning, yeast needs that oxygen to build the colony. After a few days and there's alcohol present, you don't want oxygen anymore. Okay, that's a big confusion. A lot of people don't seem to understand. You want it in the very beginning because it needs it to build a colony. Once that colony is built and it starts chowing down, now you do not want it anymore because that can activate acetobacters, which can cause vinegar. And you definitely don't want it to turn to vinegar before it gets drank as mead. I did something a little bit different in this one, and that is reverse engineering the brew based off of the yeast. Now, I do this all the time, but I don't think I've ever actually explained the process. So we're using a 12% alcohol tolerance yeast. The easiest way to do this is 12% divided by 135, or 131.25 if you prefer to use that number, gives me 1.088. What that means is if I start with a 1.088 gravity, according to the rules of the yeast, which they don't read, it should finish dry if that was my starting gravity. So that means that is my absolute highest starting gravity to make a dry mead, right? Anything above that could become a sweeter mead. Now, my intent on this one is that if it comes out dry, I may pasteurize it and back sweeten and make it sweeter that way. That way I have full control over how sweet it is while still keeping the alcohol to somewhere in the 10 to 11% range, which is really where I want it to be. So if I know that 1.088 is my maximum gravity, if I was making a gallon, I know that it's about 2.5 pounds of honey, but I'm making a little more than a gallon. So it should be a little bit lower than 1.088. If that was clear as mud for you, we have a video on ABV Brewing Basics that explains better. So the only issue with putting all the herbs in here is they want to stick to my spoon. So I may just lose a couple of herbs in the process. And you know what? I'm just going to have to deal with that. You need every herb. Okay, so that is our basic must. So the next thing I want to do is get a gravity reading on it to know, how bad my calculation was. Basically. And I'm just going to drop that in and pull some out. 1.070. Now, let me calculate something just to see. I think that's somewhere around 10%. But let's make sure. So if that went totally dry, it's 1.070 minus 1.000 equals 0.07 times 135 gives me 9.45. A little bit on the low side, but I'm okay with that. This is meant to be an easy drinking mead that may actually retain some of the medical benefits. So, I'm good with it being 9.5%. So next, we pitch our yeast. This is a very simple thing, but I would like to point out one thing. Red Star yeast comes in plastic packages rather than paper. I like to be able to tear them. Can't do that with Red Star. It actually makes me use the yeast less. We have both, Red Star and Lalvin, and I tend to choose the Red Star less often because I have to cut the package. Yes, I am just that lazy. So at this point, some people will say, you should have hydrated that yeast. And they may be right. It is always a good practice to do if you want to. I don't, because we've never noticed a difference. The once in a blue moon that our yeast was no good, well, I'll repitch yeast in a couple of days if it doesn't work. That's all.
But if you want to rehydrate your yeast, normally they'll have the instructions on how to do so on the back of your packet. So just simply follow those directions and you should be good to go.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so we still have our herby spoon. I'm just going to stir that yeast in a little bit. You don't have to get too crazy. But again, adding oxygen at this point, not a bad idea. So you can get as crazy as you want with the mixing. A word about nutrients. Now, I believe that the real use for Meadowsweet in mead was as a yeast nutrient, because what yeast wants is
nitrogen.
And I would imagine that as a green leafy herb, it's filled with nitrogen. Now, how much yan does it actually have? I don't know. Yeah. But there's tea in here, there's the yeast, and there's the orange zest. We've been pretty lucky, maybe, that most of our meads actually work out. But honestly, we just like to keep it simpler. So there's always that question of, could you use nutrients? If you wanted to, at this point, you certainly can. You can add whatever you want. We do use Fermento on occasion when I feel that it needs it. But a brew like this, I don't think it needs anything extra. For me personally, your mileage may vary.
The key to using any ingredients in home brewing is understanding how they work and when to use them. So as Brian said, now would be the point to add nutrients if you wish to do so.
And all I want to do now, put the lid on tightly, very tightly. By the way, in case we didn't mention it, everything that we used today was sanitized in
the red bucket of sanitization.
That's a very important step, and it's something that we say it in most videos, but we don't stress it so much in the early part of the video when it's most important. Everything that we use is sanitized. Every single piece that goes into here, except for maybe the orange zest, wasn't sanitized. Okay, these little big mouth bubblers, when you put the lids on, you want to make sure you crank it down real good. It's just a tiny little liner is the seal in there. And if you don't crank it down real hard, it doesn't seal properly. So right now I can see that that is holding pressure. See, it's down on this side. So I know this is actually sealed and going to work. The next most important thing is take notes. I have right here a piece of paper. It says Meadowsweet Mead, 6/29/21. That's today's date. And I'm going to put my initial gravity, which is 1.070. And I put 2 pounds of 2.5 pounds. See, this is why you take notes, folks. 2.5 pounds of orange blossom honey. That was Sweet Squeeze. We have links to that below, by the way. 1 tablespoon of dry orange zest. 0.75 ounces of Meadowsweet. We also have links for that. 1 cup decaf black tea. We actually have links for that too, probably. And 1 packet of the Premier Blanc yeast, which we also have links to. Sorry, if you guys use any of those links to buy stuff, we are Amazon affiliates, and we do get a small commission at no additional cost to you. So it's really cool. It helps the channel out and helps us out. Anyway, this is now going to go sit for a little while until it starts up, and then we will show you more. So we're about 2 hours in or so, and as you can see, we have activity. There's some weird activity too. Derico was pointing it out to me. There's like bubble island chunks floating in the herbs, and that's going to happen because all those herbs are creating a bit of a blanket until they get fully soaked in, and then they start dropping down. But let's take a look inside.
So here in the airlock, you can see that we have some activity.
Yeah.
So down here in the herb layer, you can see some of the little bits of foam that are collecting and how the herbs are poofing up as the bubbles are pushing them up and stuff, and it's all undulated and looking funky, but that's normal just because gas does that. We can also see some of the little tiny bubbles that the camera wasn't able to catch because they're so tiny, but you can see them start to go up the sides. Yeah, there's bubbles coming up the side. So that's proof that it's actually going and not just a temperature differential. Right. Because this actually was started warm. Yeah. And now it's cooling off. So
I still am starting to think that my full packet of yeast idea in any brew is actually a good idea. I didn't think it was before. I thought it was wasteful, but since we've started doing it that way every single time, it comes out better every single time. They've finished more cleanly. They started up right away. So I'm just going to start doing that all the time, I think. Yeast isn't that expensive, so it's not that big of a deal.
But if you are in a situation that you need to be more frugal, you can go back and use Brian's old method of determining how much yeast you need to use. Because a full packet is intended for 5 gallons. And this is only just a little over 1 gallon, as Brian stated earlier. So,
and here's the thing: it's your mead, so you can make it however you like. We just show how we do it and give ideas and try to evade you from the pitfalls that could happen from doing it wrong. That came out all kinds of awkward, but I'm going to go with it anyway. And yeah, I just gave that a little bit of a swirl to try to break up some of those gas bubbles, and it seemed to have worked. Of course, I now have more herbs stuck to the side, but this is going to get swirled a few more times. And we're going to let this ferment for probably 2 to 3 weeks. Once we start seeing the airlock slow down, which is not a guarantee that it's done, but once it starts slowing down, we'll take a reading, wait a week, take another reading, just like we do. And when that's done, we move on.
So if you are doing this at home, what you want to do in the meantime, as we're waiting for this to ferment, is you want to make sure that you keep an eye on the herbs. Because the gases are pushing them to the top, they need to remain moist.
Yes.
So if you give Brian's patented
treat it like a fruit cap
swirl every once in a while, that will make sure everything stays moist and nothing untoward comes of that. More than likely, with all the gases being released and all the activity, probably nothing's going to happen, but just to be safe, keep that moist and you should be good to go.
Yep, definitely. And we'll probably leave all that stuff in there for the full time of fermentation too. We get asked that a lot, just because that's part of the fermentation this time, so it's important. Anyway, if you like this video, thanks for watching so much, guys, and look up. There's another video up there. You might like that one too.